between the cracks of the car. This person across the street from or what?
Slow.
All right. I'll welcome you all to the February Watertown School Board meeting, and I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, under the consent agenda, item 2.1, roll call. Please note all board members are present. Item 2.2, are there any conflicts of interest this evening that a board member needs to disclose? If not, 2.3, we need to review and have an approval of the agenda, which needs a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Iverson.
Second.
Second by Moulton. Any comments or questions on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2.4, approve the minutes of the January 9th, 2023 meeting. Could we have a motion, please?
Move approval of the minutes.
Motion by Stein.
Second.
Second by Lohr. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2.5, we'll receive the financial reports for January 2023.
Thank you. In the General and Special Education Fund, the expenditures exceeded the revenue for the month as typical for January, with moderate revenue receipts. Federal revenue in the amount of $346,000 was received in the General Fund and is related to title program funding. Capital Outlay received the final drawdown of $24,000 related to that of ESSER funding in support of the facility HVAC upgrades, as identified under ESSER Round 2. This completes the $2.2 million HVAC boiler upgrade project that included several building enhancements at the elementary and intermediate buildings. Other revenue consists of school board sponsorship payments and surplus computer sales in the amount of $91,960. This fund's ending cash position reflects an increase when the certificates are retained from the balance. K-12 Nutrition Services had expenditures exceed the revenue during the month, with fluctuating inventory and students working through established lunch account payments. Concessions, preschool, driver's education, and custodial funds reported very moderate activity for the month. In the fund of Lake Area Technical College, the revenue includes the tuition and fees related to the second semester in the amount of $2.6 million. The other revenue consisted of state support in the amount of $1.9 million for the third quarter, House Bill 1031 in the amount of just over $1 million in support of the archway construction, sales interest, and other revenue. The revenue significantly exceeded the expenditures as typical for January. The ending cash position of this fund reflects an increase when compared to that of the previous years. LATC Bookstore, Food Service, and Educare reported moderate activity. Within the Employee Benefit Trust, the premium and administrative costs during the month of January slightly exceeded the claims. The ending cash balance in this fund has declined from previous years. A report recapping the 2022 year will be presented later during the meeting. I would be happy to answer any questions should you have any.
Okay, if there's no questions on the financial reports, we'll move on to 2.6 and student staff recognition.
Yes, thank you very much. I have Mr. Rohde, you want to come on up? This is Chad Rohde. He was named the SHAPE Educator of the Year for the state of South Dakota, and SHAPE is the Society of Health and Physical Educators. So, State PE Teacher of the Year for South Dakota. Wow. So, he's over at Watertown Middle School. Thank you, Mr. Rohde. Thank you. I'd also like to congratulate on Friday, January 20th, we announced our certified and classified staff members of the year. And so at the high school, our certified teacher was Danielle Harms, and classified staff member Natalie Aroncy. At the middle school, our teacher was Becky Zabrowski, and our classified was Chris Schmidt. At the intermediate school, our certified staff member was Kiara Borkus, and our classified staff member Kristen Loy. At Jefferson Elementary, our certified staff member was Laura Asmussen, and our classified staff member was Abby Godfrey. At Lincoln Elementary, our certified staff member was Jesse Feldheim, and our classified member was Erica Shilkin. At McKinley Elementary, our certified staff member was Emily Hatton, and our classified staff member was Becky Catlett. At Millette, our certified staff member was Amanda Miley, and our classified staff member Elizabeth Vanderzee. At Roosevelt Elementary, our certified staff member was Francine Johnson, and our classified staff member Katie Talsma. And at Garfield, our certified staff member was Holly Grimsrud, and our classified staff member Kelsey Hansen. So let's give those folks a big round of applause. Those were our nominees, and our winner of the Certified Staff Member of the Year for the Watertown School District was Becky Zabrowski, special education teacher at Watertown Middle School. And our Classified Staff Member of the Year was Becky Catlett, library paraprofessional at McKinley Elementary. So let's give those two a big round of applause. All right,
Thank
I'm
you.
up again.
Yep, 2.7 is the South Dakota School Board recognition.
Yes, I am excited because we've got some elementary students with us today. And they are here today to honor our school board members for their service and in recognition of dedicated leadership in public education and for improving achievement for all public school students. The Associated School Boards of South Dakota honors the Watertown School District and our school board members for South Dakota School Board Recognition Week, which actually is next week, February 20th through the 24th. And so I have elementary students from each of our 5 elementary schools here, and from McKinley I have Sophie Heck, and she is going to read for Tammy Riber, our school board president. So Sophie, do you want to come on up to the table up here?
Good evening. My name is Sophie Heck, and I'm a 4th grader at McKinley Elementary School. I'm so honored to be here tonight representing McKinley School. We thank you for your dedication and service on the Watertown School Board. The decision to make help our schools and community in many ways. Because of you, we are honored to have many learning options. My classmates and I came up with a list of things we are thankful for when it comes to learning. This list includes flexible seating options, our gym equipment, iPads, and our teachers and principal at McKinley. Thank you for everything you do for our school district. Sincerely, Sophie Heck.
Sophie, stand here. We're going to have you stand right here in front, Mrs. Riber. Thank you. And from Roosevelt Elementary to speak to Mr. Stuart Stein, Jada Exie and Everly Reuter. Come on up.
Dear Stuart Stein, thank you for caring for our schools. As our former school board president, we appreciate your commitment to our district. People like you are important for students and staff. Happy School Board recognition, Mr. Stein. Everly Reuter,
Jade Exie, Roosevelt Elementary, Miss Hawkins, 4th grade.
Thank you very much. Come on up here, girls, right up here. Thank you very much. Okay, from Jefferson Elementary, we have Samira Majoon for Mr. John Iverson.
Hello, my name is Samira Mjun. I am a 4th grader at Jefferson Elementary. On behalf of our school, I would like to thank John Iverson for being a member of the school board. Thank you for devoting your time in education, just like I'm devoting my time to honor you and miss my soccer practice tonight. But truthfully, I'm happy to be here. The more things change, the more they stay the same. I heard that you used to share that quote with your students. You might not be educating our youth anymore, but your responsibility in overseeing our education is extremely important. With your background in education, you know that it takes someone who is real, kind, compassionate, and inclusive to all students. You have made a difference in many students' lives by encouraging them to reach for their dreams. Because of your influence in education, I have learned that some of your former students have followed in your footsteps to become geography teachers. That is an amazing compliment in educating our youth. Once again, on behalf of Jefferson Elementary, I would like to thank you, John Iverson, for your dedication to the students of Watertown in our community. We are very lucky to have you on the Watertown School Board. Thank you for your time.
Stay up here, Samira. This is the best speech I've ever heard. From Lincoln Elementary, we have Cora Dornbush to speak to Carrie Lohr.
Thank you for helping all the students learn and do their best in Watertown. You make it so Watertown receives the greatest education by making sure we have the necessary resources to do our daily tasks at school. You are doing a great job at accomplishing goals that help the schools and students do their very best. We are so grateful for you employing Dr. Danielson and all the rules you set in place for all the teachers and students. Thank you for being responsible when working with the budget, overseeing facility issues, and adapting new policies and curriculum. Lastly, thank you for representing the moms, dads, and students in Watertown School District. We are so glad you look out for all of us and keep us safe. We appreciate you so much. Happy School Board Appreciation Month, and thank you for all you do. Cora, Kinsley, and Isabella.
And from Millette Elementary, we have Harper Evian for Jean Moulton.
Dear Mrs. Jean Moulton, my name is Harper Evian, and I'm a 4th grader at Millette Elementary. I have been at Millette since kindergarten. I like reading and math classes. Outside of school, I enjoy doing competitive cheer and tumbling. Someday, I want to be a nurse. I'm writing today to thank you for all your hard work for our school. I know you spend lots of time talking to the community and making decisions. You have a huge job providing all students with a great education. Thank you for making Millette a fantastic place to learn. Sincerely, Dr.
No, this is my former school too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, students, for coming and for parents for bringing them. And thank you also to our school board as we honor you in particular next week as for School Board Recognition Week. So.
Thank you. All right, if anybody wants to sneak out now and not spend the rest of the time at the board meeting, you're welcome to.
I see they took you up on your offer.
See that?
That's what I was thinking at first. Forgot it was school recognition.
All right, we'll move on now to items under the discussion items for Lake Area. And first of all, 3.1, is there any public input this evening on agenda or non-agenda items for Lake Area? If not, 3.2, we'll have an enrollment update from President Sanderson.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, members of the board. That's a tough agenda item to follow. I have strong faith that Watertown's speech and debate program is in good hands for a very long time, though. It's great to see young people express themselves, and it gives me great faith that even at young ages our folks are very smart. So several things to update you on around enrollment at Lake Area. We've officially passed day 10 in the spring semester, which is a really important part of the semester. It's when we finalize a lot of things around financial aid. It's also when we have our final enrollment for the semester. And the good news is Lake Area continues to grow. We are at 2.8% above where we were this time last year. That means we've got 2,190 students on campus. To break that down just a little bit, 1,700 of those are degree-seeking individuals. About 450 are dual enrollment or dual credit students, and just over 10 are non-degree seeking. So those are individuals who are taking general education courses in most situations to prepare for programs like nursing. And so again, 2,190 students who are on campus, 369 are new to us since last fall. With the pace that we're on, we'll exceed last year's enrollments of 2,625 when you compare or add together our fall semester and what we have on campus this spring semester. We're at 2,607, so not far off from that 2,625. A couple of things that are interesting to share with you. In the last 5 years, dual enrollment students or dual credit students have grown by 20% at Lake Area Tech. That's really been a transition from the program getting up and going to being now at a place where students know about the opportunity, families are planning for it as students are thinking about their junior and senior year of high school. And so really thinking that we're at a place where, I'm not going to say we're at max or a plateau, I don't know any of those trends yet, but I certainly think we're into a fully formed version of the dual credit enrollments at Lake Area. And there are a couple of other trends that I think you'll find interesting, especially as we figure out what life after the pandemic looks like. 5 years ago, so in the 2018-19 school year, degree-seeking students totaled 1,762. That fell in the pandemic year, 2020-21 school year, to 1,674 students, and we popped that back up to 1,724 this spring, so that we've kind of found our way through the pandemic impact in the degree-seeking area of our offerings, and it's definitely the direction that we want to head. As we think about meeting employers' needs, degree-seeking is really where our mission is at. We want to make sure we spend our time wisely there. And we've seen some similar changes or some trends with the ages of our student population. So let's go back 5 years again. At that point, 82% of our student body was traditionally aged, which means that 18% was non-traditionally aged, and in higher education that means students who are 24 or older. During the pandemic, non-traditional student population went down, non-traditional student population went up, the traditionally aged student population went down, and now we're seeing that kind of find its balance again. We're at 80-20, 80% traditionally aged, 20% non-traditional. And I don't know if this is a trend yet or not, but it's interesting because we've kind of crossed a threshold. Lake Area has had 80 to 82% of its students come from South Dakota for the last 5+ years. This year, for the spring semester, for the first time, we're seeing that 31% of our students are from out of state. So we've crossed over a little bit, and I'm not sure if that's a trend or not, but it's an interesting point to see as students recognize the value at Lake Area and the ability to get skills, get them great jobs, certainly welcoming students from a wide area. As we look ahead to next year, school will start on August 21st. And of note, we have 2 new programs that will come online next fall, one in surgical technology and one in our diesel program called the Butler Max program. And that will add on an option for students interested in diesel ag equipment through the Butler partnership that we have. And those programs are nearly full. So if people have an interest in surgical technology or diesel for the Butler Max program, certainly encourage them to apply and get enrolled in those programs as soon as possible. I'll stand by for questions if anybody has questions on enrollment or as we look ahead to next academic year.
With the increase of out-of-state students, have you been able to pinpoint any trends as far as which states they're coming from? Is it neighboring states, North Dakota, Minnesota?
Pretty regionalized. There's ones and twos here and there from the outlying states, but most come from the direct region bordering states.
Diesel program, now that the steel is here, are we on track for completion of that building?
Yes. So in fact today, this morning, students signed off on one of the last steel beams to go into the ceiling of the diesel expansion, where the Kibble program or the John Deere program and some of our general diesel will expand into. And so that program is expected to expand into the space with next school year, so in August. The diesel program will be the first of what's currently under construction to expand into the new space. The Archway project obviously is going to take a little while longer to open up, probably in the fall of 24 at some point.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Okay, if nothing else there, we'll move on to the action items for this area. And under personnel, first of all, 4.1.1, the retirements.
Thank you, Madam President. We have one retirement that has been submitted that we would seek your approval of. Just to remind the board, we have a deadline of March 1st for retirement submissions, and so we expect that we'll see a few more of those in the coming month. We'll bring those to you in March, but as of right now, one retirement to recommend your approval for.
I move approval of the retirement as presented.
Motion by Stein.
Second.
Second by Lohr. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4.1.2, the resignations.
Thank you, Madam President. This month we have 4 resignations before you from staff in different areas of Lake area and recommend your approval of those resignations.
I will make a motion to approve the resignations.
Motion by Lohr.
Second.
Second by Stein. Comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4.1.3, an authority to hire.
Thank you. We're seeking your approval for authority to hire in the diesel program, that Butler Max option that I mentioned a few minutes ago in the enrollment update. We've had a diesel position that's been open this entire school year, and so know that it'll be a challenge to get now 2 positions filled, one in the existing program and now with the diesel expansion to the Butler Max. And so seek your approval that we can go ahead and get that listed and get somebody on board so we're fully ready to go for next fall.
Motion, please.
Okay. Move approval of the authority to hire.
Motion by Stein.
Second.
Second by Lohr. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 4.1.4, the contract recommendations and addendum.
Before you are a variety of adjunct and overload contracts as well as contract services through corporate education. We recommend your approval of these items and would note that there may be a few additional overload contracts that come through in March as those are finalized for the semester.
Okay, motion please.
I will make a motion to approve the contract recommendation and addendums.
Motion by Lohr.
Second.
Second by Stein. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move to 4.2 in the property items, and first of all, 4.2.1, consider the architectural and engineering contract for the dental assisting renovation.
We're seeking your approval to move forward with the architectural and engineering component to remodel our existing dental assisting program facility spaces. That program currently sits in the northwest corner of our campus in part of the original building, and is in need of refresh in several ways, both in things that we can see walking into that space and things that lie underground. And so the first step for us to fully understand what that remodel project will entail is to have the architectural and engineering piece complete. And Co-op Architecture has a proposal before us, and you'll see the details before you. Our hope would be that we can move forward with this, fully understand the funds that we need to raise for the renovation, and also to have them help us think through the phasing of the project, because students are in that space for nearly the entire year. There's not much of a summer break, and so we'll have to be really mindful about how we complete a renovation and update to the facility, just with the logistical challenges in that program. And I'll stand by for questions, Madam President.
Can I have a motion, please?
I move approval of Co-op for Architecture and Engineering Services for the renovation of dental assisting as presented.
Motion by Moulton,
Second.
second by Iverson. Comments or questions?
Does this also aid in improving or expanding that program as well?
Thank you for the question. So that's one of the items that we want to have the company help us address. So there's opportunity not just within dental assisting, but some other components of dental services that we want their advice on, maybe potentially around hygiene, maybe potentially around community clinic. Those are all very much in ideation stages, but we've got some ideas out there that we need some help thinking through what's realistic or not.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, we have the motion and the second to approve the recommendation for the architect and engineering contract. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4.2.2, consider the heavy equipment operator facility lease agreement.
Thank you. So currently our heavy equipment operator program is in a leased space on the southwest side of town. We've been in that facility for a couple of years, and so this is a continuing lease agreement. You'll see in the notes that that agreement goes up a couple $100 per month in the current agreement, but that's a good space for us in the current environment. Our hope would be that over time we're able to bring heavy equipment to campus, but we're a ways from that opportunity. So for the time being, this lease agreement is a great way to continue that program and make the program available for students and for employers. And I'll stand by for questions, Madam President.
I have a motion, please.
I move that we accept the East Side lease agreement as presented.
Motion by Iverson,
Second.
second by Moulton. Questions on the heavy equipment lease? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 4.2.3, considering the manufacturing and technology solutions facility lease agreements.
Thank you. So this is a package of 3 leases for staff who are part of the Manufacturing and Technology Solutions grant project. It is a refreshed MTS, Manufacturing Technology Solutions, is a consulting and training opportunity for Lake Erie to provide services to manufacturers throughout South Dakota. And so the leases before you continue leases that were in existence as that program transitioned to us at the start of the calendar year. The lease spaces in Watertown and Aberdeen are office spaces within the development corporations or partnerships with economic development. And the space in Sioux Falls is a combination of staff offices, some meeting space, and some prototyping or some work space for our staff to work with manufacturers. All of these leases are designed in flexible ways so that as the program continues to transition to Lake Erie, we can make sure that we can lease spaces or be in spaces that make the most sense for the program going forward. Madam President, I'll stand by for questions.
Okay, could we have a motion, and we can do all 3 agreements in one motion unless somebody wants to pull any one separate out?
Madam President, I move approval of the Manufacturing Technology Solutions, MTS, facility lease for, those are 3 leases for those agreements.
Motion by Moulton,
Second.
second by Iverson. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right. And have a safe drive out to Pier.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on now to the discussion items for 14-4. And first of all, 5.1. Is there any public input this evening on agenda or non-agenda items for the K-12 side? Okay, if not, item 5.2 is the Northeast Tech High School report.
Yes, thank you. We did not meet as a board of superintendents this month, but a reminder that in February and March, the meetings got pushed back a week, so they will be Wednesday, February 22nd at 5:45. One note, Senate Bill 59 is of interest in that is currently sitting with the Appropriations Committee. It did pass through Senate Education, which would be a matching program for CTE infrastructure projects. It went to appropriations with a $1 price tag, and so we're hopeful that appropriations puts more than $1 into matching projects. But part of it, why we feel good about it with regards to Northeast Tech, is that part of the bill, at least at this point, is it needs to be regional or where there's multiple schools involved, and our co-op would fit at least the language in the current bill. So we're watching that.
All right, thank you for the Northeast Tech report. Next is 5.3 and the Employee Benefit Trust 2022 financial report.
Thank you. The 2022 financial report of the district's self-funded health and group dental insurance saw an overall net decrease in cash balance of $1.2 million, ending the 2022 year with an available cash on hand of $4.9 million. This is equivalent to a 57.11% fund balance. Total claims increased by 21% from prior year. The average trend for our Employee Benefit Trust is 13.88%, which is above Wellmark's experienced trend of 9.03%. The number of large claims over $10,000 increased by 27% for the year. Wellmark has quoted a 6.94% increase for expected claims based on overall experience. In-network utilization by the plan members were strong at 98.2% overall and delivered $6.2 million or 50% savings in paid claims to the plan. Cost trends reported by Wellmark included that nearly 11% of the members incurred no claims in the current period. An additional 64% had claims paid of $2,500 or less. The remaining 25% of members accounted for 92% of claims paid. In the 2022 period, 7 members had aggregate health and pharmacy claims paid over $100,000, accounting for 17% of total claims paid. This compares to 5 in the prior period, accounting for 21% of the claims paid. The cost of prescription drugs continues to be a significant portion of the medical cost at approximately 29% of the health claims are related to the prescription drugs, which is comparable to the prior year. Wellmark continues to monitor the use of prescription drugs, and credits are provided to the district for rebates and incentives offered by the drug companies, of which $504,000 was received in 2022. Wellmark will continue to serve as the district's third-party administrator for the 2023 year. The district will also continue to participate in the Wellmark network for medical services. The network participation cost is $8.04 per policyholder per month for 2023, which is an increase of 38 cents per holder. Network participation, benefit coordination, and managed care services as provided by Wellmark has proven to be financially beneficial to the district, with an estimated savings of approximately 49% of the billable charges. Also included within your financial report is information related to participation. 90% of the plan participants have chosen the benefits of Plan B, which is the $2,000 deductible, with the other 10% electing that of Plan A. Employees are allowed to enroll in coverage or to change between the two plans annually. Monthly, the district contributes $560 towards the cost of group health coverage and $37 towards the cost of group dental coverage for plan participants eligible for district contribution. The contribution towards the cost of health coverage declined during the 2019 year, and leading up to the decrease, the premiums were unchanged since 2014-15. An increase to the premium is anticipated and necessary as we move into the 23-24 fiscal year. Enrollment in the plan is 5% or 56 members. There are currently 732 employees, retirees, elected COBRA on the plan, and demographics of the plan include 71% are female, 71% electing single, 54% are over the age of 45, and 4% are over the age of 65. I would be happy to answer any questions should you have any.
So part of the reason for additional claims would be that people put off procedures during COVID?
Most of our claims are leading up to high-cost claimants. We just have some specialized treatments going on. So we have 7 reportable high-cost claims on our participation.
Okay.
Some of it would be dealing with those that were unable to do procedures during that year, but a lot of it just has to do with high-cost claimants.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks Heidi. 5.4, the first reading of policy ACF.
Yes, you have before you a change to our sexual harassment policy, and it really falls into some updates federally to Title IX. Currently, our activities director, Mr. Boyens, is our Title IX director. He and Mr. Barrios attended a Title IX training, and we were looking at an update to the policy and felt that because of the changes federally, we needed to do this rather than wait till the end of the year. We needed to get this before you so that it could be adopted yet this year. And you can see it's a fairly lengthy policy update with also a numbering change or a lettering change to ACAA to better fit in because it's student and it applies to students and staff. And Mr. Barrios, if there's anything you needed to tell us with regards to the policy and anything you...
Nothing at this time as far as the policy goes. We'll just, after our training, there's some things that we'll have to look at doing more with our administrators, but at this time, just the policy.
So this would be a first reading. It'll be out on the website for public comment, and then we would bring it back in March for a second reading. So no action needed tonight.
Okay, are there any comments on the policy this evening? If not, we'll move to 5.5 and the elementary plan update.
Great, thank you. You're gonna get the slides up, right, Mr. Barrios? All right. Last month, I kind of rolled out a presentation that we ended up, we put together, and prior to last month's meeting, we had met with 4 or 5 elementary school staffs. We met with the 5th staff the day after our school board meeting, and then we put together a focus group, which was representatives from each of the 5 elementaries, and some community members to listen to the presentation, and then we held 2 public listening sessions to just kind of roll out that it was the same presentation at all, at all times. And so tonight I intend to kind of give you an update on what we learned from those, and then talk a little bit about where we would see this going from this point on. So first slide is just our mission statement. Added that to the slides this time, but enabling all students to succeed in an ever-changing world. Kind of the emphasis on all. And so really, as we've been looking at this, trying to make decisions based on the needs of all students. And so just ask that you think about that as we run through this. So I'm going to start with some staff feedback. So after we visited with each elementary staff, they were sent somebody already playing me back. We sent out a link to each of the staff so that they could provide some feedback on what they heard. And so this first slide, and there's some grouping done here based off of comments with regards to the plan that was rolled out, and the number of responses that kind of fit into those groups. And this isn't necessarily all of the responses, but we tried to hit the ones that had the greater number of times mentioned. And so you can see the positives were it balances the demographics, the opportunity for some grade level planning in the PLCs with the staff, reduces the travel time, financial considerations were mentioned, bringing all students together, some of the efficiencies, and that's both staffing wise and student wise, and then balancing the class sections. Those are the top responses from staff on what we would consider to be positives. Concerns that were given was the space and services. Do we have enough space with what was proposed to provide services? Moving buildings, losing the team, with staff members and where they're at right now. The enrollment increases and decreases, and I think that's more with, the changing how we have students located, whether we have enough room. Just the staffing part, the transition in buildings, that was a big one. That came up at you'll see that as one of the questions with regards to our community listening sessions. Long-term planning, so meaning how does this fit for not only the current situation but set us up for the long term, and then transportation. So those are some of the main comments made from our staff. And then the next slide is just some common questions and kind of for the audience and the board, but the intent tonight is not necessarily to have all these questions answered, but wanted you to know what some of the questions are that are being asked by our staff members with regards to this plan. And so I'll let you just kind of absorb those. From our staff. And so that's kind of a summary of what we got from our staff. If you go to the next slide, this was our community listening session attendance. And so we did have people sign in, and then if they were affiliated with the school, indicate that. At the January 30th listening session, we had 71 families represented that indicated, and then at the February 8th listening session, we had 40 that were represented that signed in and registered. And then some of the common questions that came from the community feedback are up here right now. And we tried to answer those as best we could on the evening of those meetings, but obviously in order to address them fully, we've got some work to do before we would move, take any steps forward. So that's kind of a summary of the staff and the community. And so my next couple slides here, I want to talk just a little bit. The next one is building enrollments. And so what you see on this chart is for the last 10 years, what the buildings have had in them. The first 3 years, 13, 14, 14, 15, 15, 16, that was prior to the intermediate school being opened. And so you can see the numbers that were in there. And a big piece that has been, articulated from the staff in particular, the staff who probably lived through the K-6 years at those elementary schools where they were very full at 100 to 100, sometimes over capacity, is the idea that not wanting to be put in a situation, regardless of how we do this, where we're at that full capacity again. And then you have you have the rest of the years, 16, 17 through 22, 23. Those are the numbers post middle school being built, where we went to the current setup we have with a 7-8 middle school, a 5-6 intermediate school, and then 5 K4 sites. And so you can see, obviously, when you take out 5th and 6th grade, you are dropping those numbers significantly at those buildings. And so the last 3 columns are what you would want to focus on, which is the projected enrollment with the partner school concept, what that means in terms of additional students at each site, and then the number fewer than the highest enrollment. And so when we put that number on there, that's really going back to those the K6 days where we had significantly more students in there. And you can see that even in the partner school concept, you would still be 100 students less at elementaries, or 99 at elementaries, than the most we had, leaving us some breathing room in that concept. I'll pause a moment on that if there's any thing I can clarify on that, or we can go back to it if you have questions when I'm done. The next slide, I want to point this out for the public, because this is a concern, and it was kind of maybe an initial reaction to just thinking of how could you do that if I already have 23 or 24 students in my child's class, and you add from another elementary school, how would there not be a significant spike in the numbers? And the intent in rolling this plan out is that this is still the policy of the Watertown School District, that it's the goal to limit student enrollment to 23 students in grades kindergarten through 3rd, and 26 students in grades 4 through 6. And so there's not an attempt to change this policy or look at that at this time. And the next slide illustrates the numbers in each grade level for 23, 24, and the class sizes if we remained with 12 sections per grade. And you can see that on average you'd still be at 21 or 22 with our 12 sections. Go ahead and click on the next one. And I don't want to read all these, but just to point out each bullet point, a reminder with any of these proposals, this is still meant to be elementary school settings. So there would be homerooms, students would be with a dedicated homeroom teacher for the majority of the day. And so still have that classroom, your homeroom that a child would be in. The buildings are being looked at to consider dedicated spaces for art, music, a learning center, the sensory spaces that we have built in right now. This refers back to that number that each elementary building would only add between 20 and 50 students over what they currently have. It's really articulating from that previous chart, but 100 or more fewer students per building than at our highest capacity before the intermediate school. And then I want to explain this last bullet point. If enrollment does grow, there's space to accommodate 130 plus students within current sections without going over caps. And so where that number is calculated, if you go back a slide, Mr. Barrios, so you're looking at, so 4th grade could go up to 26, so you would have 12 sections times 5 students, where you'd have room within 12 classrooms to add 60 students in the 4th grade. At your K1, 2, and 3, you're at that 23, so your numbers are a little smaller, but you could still add 24 students at, in 3rd and 2nd, or 12 students at kindergarten and 1st without going over the assigned caps in the elementary. And so that is, I suppose I said I wasn't going to answer all those questions, but that is one answer to the question of if there's growth, that even without adding a section, we would have growth depending on where they, or the ability to add students just within using our cap policy for classes. Okay, this is, this was a question that was asked, is why the partner school concept? And as we looked at this administratively, we looked at, from an educational standpoint, what are some of those main needs that we have to consider about what options we have. And so there's 5 different columns here. The current configuration, and when I presented the neighborhood school concept, was leaving 4 K-4 elementaries, reducing by 1, but leaving 4 instead of 5. The partner school concept was the one I presented that was the pre-K 2, 3, 4. The hybrid school concept was where we talked about possibly looking at a 3-4 school and then having K-2 schools. And the concept involving Watertown Middle School was the moving 6th grade to the middle school, making a 4-5 intermediate school, and having K-3 schools. And so when we had the criteria on the left-hand side is what we looked at when trying to consider what concept was the best one to bring before you. That list is number of facilities, transitions for students, preserved neighborhood schools, construction needed, socioeconomic balance, special education balance, professional collaboration, travel time minimized, space for support services, balancing of class sizes, early childhood within a building site, counseling, nursing, instructional coaching, shared services, English as a second language services, alternative education, access to grade level peers, the SLC, that's the special education program at Millette, alt ed access to grade level peers, and then speech language pathologist, occupational therapy services more concentrated. And so when looking at the table, red administratively is where we had some concerns. Yellow is more moderate reservations about it. A green indicates the best fit. And in plugging in the criteria with the different ones, you can kind of see where, as we started talking about the different concepts, it became clear to us, at least with the criteria we were looking at on the left-hand side, that the partner school concept best fit that bill. So that does that answers why bring this concept forward, because that did get asked, from staff and from community. So we tried to summarize that into a table here, and as to why partner schools, the improved educational opportunities, and emphasize the all, tying that back to our mission statement. The improved efficiency, it does allow use of the existing facilities without construction, better support for the professional development of staff, the representation of Watertown as a whole, and in that presentation I made before, we talked about, do our schools reflect the community as a whole, not necessarily individual neighborhood schools, and actually eases transitions and removes some student labels because you're serving the students where they're going with their regular education peers. And eases transitions, by that meant because you have half of the students going to school together the entire time, it eases some of those upper grade transitions where you go, say for instance at the intermediate school where you come from 5 different schools into one, that you've been going to school with half of the students in Watertown from kindergarten all the way through 4th grade already. So the next slide, this is one where I'm making a pivot in that I'm from the first presentation to the summary here, and as we've been trying to really pare down and put in place where this partner school concept could reside, it's become clear to us that a switch is needed for that break, in that now when we're talking about a partner school, we think administratively it fits better within the four remaining schools, that it would be a pre-K 1 with the upper elementary being a 2, 3, 4. And that's as we started plugging in classrooms and where we could fit within the existing schools, and also looking at the housing of our pre-kindergarten, so anything below kindergarten, which is our early childhood preschool, which is at Garfield now, junior kindergarten, which is at Roosevelt, and our Title I preschool, which is at McKinley, and having the ability to locate all of those in the partner schools rather than having to utilize something else, or another facility. And so that is a pivot that we have made administratively when we talk about the partner school concept. That is a change from what was presented both to staff and then in these community listening sessions. So I wanted to emphasize that fairly loudly, that is a change. So I don't want anybody to be fooled going forward that when we refer to partner schools, we're talking about this breakdown, and we think that's a better fit, and kind of balances it out too with if you count pre-kindergarten as a grade unto itself, where you would have 3 years and 3 years versus the other way. So my final slide is kind of the next steps that we feel are in order. The first is administrative legwork. And when I say administrative legwork, it's really getting down to answering the questions that people have about this concept. Filling in and having a concrete plan for what those partner schools would be. Identifying, that would also mean identifying the best fit for if there is going to be a school no longer in operation. It would mean answering the other questions that you saw on those first slides from our staff, from our community, having that in a more cohesive to actually present a workable plan. This has been a concept. I've tried to make that clear as I met with staff and the community, that it was a concept that was being shown to begin with, but part of the administrative legwork would be actually laying it out in plan form so that there's more kind of meat on the bones to be able to look at and make some considerations. The third bullet there, identifying transitional steps for next year. Once we kind of have the plan formulated, it would mean identifying, are there things that would make sense to do next year if this plan is approved for the 24-25 school year. One that I know has been talked about with at the administrative level is, if the plan is accepted for the 24-25 school year, do we need to think about where our kindergarten students start, so that they would we be able to have them start on the path next year, since they aren't in an existing school right now? That's one of those considerations. Are there other things that could be done when we hire new staff, or when new students enroll in the district, that would help us, that would provide a smoother transition for 24-25. Once we have the plan filled in, getting back around and having some sort of staff update for where we're at, and rolling out more of the considerations with our staff, and then gathering community feedback. We have a kind of a questionnaire prepared that can go on the website that would allow for community members to chime in, provide their feedback on what they know about it, or what other questions we need to answer. in terms of, well, whatever comes with this, whether it's the financial side of it or the concept, and kind of put that all in. And where I see a timeline falling on this is our March board meeting, which is 1 month from today, March 13th. Some sort of progress update from me, and then with a fully developed plan for the April meeting, and almost like a first reading per se, with a final decision to be made in May. And then I would ask for board to consider the possibility of whether or not maybe a special board meeting dedicated to this topic happen somewhere in there in late March or after the April presentation. And so I'm not the only probably there is no action to be taken here other than essentially allowing this to progress so that we can get to work administratively to put forward those fill in the blanks type things for your consideration at the progress update in March. So I will stand by for questions from the board here if you have any on this.
Well, I think number one is what's the impact on students? First consideration. And I think it's also a two-prong approach. There's things we can do internally as well as to improve what we offer as services, curriculum. For instance, math and reading. Math is up for an update this summer. So there's areas that we could strengthen, particularly K through 6. There's possible consideration of the standardized grade report card for K through 4. I don't think it encourages students to excellence. I think there's some improvement that needs to happen there as well. So there's some internal things. Obviously there's a lot more questions here than answers. One of the schools was built in 1950 and the last update was 1990. And that school has a second floor, which is it's hot, it's uncomfortable, it's not a good condition. So there's lots of factors to consider. And I think that has 78 classrooms up on that second floor. So factors, variables, and I would definitely be open to a special meeting that would involve the entire board and allow the community to come in.
First of all, Dr. Danielson, I just want to say thank you for all of your hard work that has gone into this. This is such a big topic. There are so many moving pieces and so many things to consider, and just the amount of research that you've done to this point is evident and appreciated. As people have asked me, there are certainly pros and cons to all of the different paths and different options, including if we do nothing, as you've stated. And so that's where we have some big decisions that are ahead of us. I would encourage us to potentially have a special board meeting perhaps after the March meeting, in between March and April, maybe shortly after March, just from the sheer time aspect of this. Like, I don't know what the pulse is, how other people feel about this. I'm sure everybody has their own personal opinion, but before you and others continue to invest so much time and effort into putting together a plan, I think it would be wise for the board to get together and have a executive session type discussion on what we're feeling at this point, just before too much gets put into place, and out of respect for your time, other people's time, and making sure that we're going down a path that the board is intending to support, or if we need to change directions a little bit. Just my opinion.
I don't think that falls into something that we can do in executive session.
Okay, well then, non-executive session meeting.
We looked at, I think when we talked administratively, that the idea of possibly, a typical second meeting date would be that fourth Tuesday or fourth Monday, so like a March 27th was a date that we looked at administratively that would fit the window you're thinking. You know, the first meeting would be the 13th, that would be 2 weeks later, or if there's a different date in there, but I do think, you know, that was one thing that was brought up at the community sessions was, you know, as people tried to wrestle with how the decision would be made, you know, it still is ultimately a board decision on something like this, and so, and I appreciate there were board members in attendance at those meetings, but obviously it was not a full meeting of the board, and so it wasn't I'll call it a formal setting for such as this where it's clear that the board's in session, and so having something like that I think would be appropriate somewhere in there, so that it's obvious that all 5 of you are listening to the same comments, the same, you know, input, feedback, you know. I think, oops, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to commend, I know our district ad team and our elementary principals in particular, but also all of our administrators have been thinking about this and helping guide the discussion, helping me. So when you say my research, a lot of my research is working with our team, and so I appreciate that. But certainly there's more to come with answering some of the questions that we have to provide people a comfort level.
I think personally I'd like to walk through all the elementary buildings again. It's been a couple of years since I've done that. I've got all their floor plans here, but I think I need an update personally, eyeball what is placed where and what's going on. I think that would be helpful.
I think we're all trying to just soak everything in and look at all these options and do the best thing for, again, like our mission statement says, all students. And I don't have a answer right now as to what I'd say my preference is. I'm still waiting to hear from the community and from the rest of the board members, and that's kind of where I stand with it. But I really am interested in continuing along the path that we're going down and having a community meeting and a board meeting like that. All right, is there anything else?
And I don't think we have to decide the date tonight. Obviously, if it's not going to be prior to the March 13th board meeting, which I would rather be able to give you the progress update once we start filling in some of the blanks before we would be ready to have such a meeting. So I think in that between March and April school board meetings would be the appropriate time for it, so we could set that officially at the March board meeting.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the action items then for 14-4. And first of all, 6.1, approval of the bills. Could we have a motion, please?
I move approval of the bills.
Second.
Motion by Moulton and second by Stein. Any questions on the bills? If not, all in favor of paying the bills, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6.2 will go to the personnel issues, and first of all, the retirements.
For tonight, we've got 3 retirements that we're bringing to you from across the district, and just recommend your approval on those.
Okay, motion please.
I'll make a motion to approve the retirements.
Motion by Lohr.
Second.
Second by Stein. Any comments on the retirements? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6.2.2, the resignations.
And these are the resignations from, again, across the district, bringing those for your consideration for approval tonight.
And please note when we have an extra duty one that is considered pending suitable replacement.
Okay, motion please.
Move approval of the resignations.
Motion by Stein,
Second.
Second by Laura. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6.2.3, authority to hire.
There's 2 authority to hires that we're bringing for your consideration tonight. 1 general ed paraprofessional and 1 special education paraprofessional.
Okay, motion please.
I'll make a motion to approve the authority to hire.
Motion by Laura,
Second.
second by Stein. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.2.4, the contract recommendations and addendums.
And these would be also then the recommendations and addendums for contracts recommended for your approval.
Motion please.
Move approval of the contract recommendations and addendums.
Motion by Stein,
Second.
second by Laura. Any comments?
Just the note that the 1 is for the 23-24 school year,
Okay.
the special education instructor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.2.5 is consider our superintendent contract.
Move to extend the superintendent contract for a 2-year period, 2023 to 2023-24 and 2024-25, with specific terms to be determined.
Okay, motion by Stein,
Second.
second by Laura. Any comments on the superintendent contract? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6.3, the property items, and first of all, 6.3.1, receive and approve the audit for the 21-22 fiscal year.
Thank you. I'll try to make this quick. You guys have heard from me enough tonight. The 21-22 audit for the district has been accepted by legislative audit. The board has been provided a hard copy of the report, and the PDF version is available on the district's website. An unmodified opinion was issued on the financial statements of the business type activities in each major fund. As noted in previous years, a significant deficiency was disclosed due to a lack of segregation of duties. This disclosure is due to the limited staff size of the district's business office that does not allow for what would be considered complete oversight of the financial impacts of the district. The summary of auditor's results can be found on page 88 of the report. The federal awards tested as major programs were student financial aid and education stabilization funding for ESSER, which is the K-12 CARES funding, and HERF, which is Lake Area side of the CARES dollars. The schedule of federal awards can be found on page 86 of the report, with identification that $24 million was received in federal dollars for 2022. The management's discussion and analysis report can be found starting on page 6 of the audit report. This provides an internal outline of the main financial impacts of the audit report and corresponding financials. The detailed audit report is available in PDF format on the district's website and on the Department of Legislative Audit website. It is requested that the board accept the 21-22 audit report for the district.
Okay, could we have a motion, please?
I move acceptance of the audit report for 21-22?
Yep.
Motion by Moulton
Second.
and a second by Iverson to approve the audit report. Any comments or questions on it?
It's just wonderful reading, let me tell you.
Great weekend reading material.
I did highlight a couple of things, but you can just explain them to me later.
Okay,
So you could translate some of the language.
perfect.
Thanks.
All right, we have the motion and a second to approve the audit. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 6.3.2, an authority to bid the high school roof replacement.
Yes, the district requests the authority to bid 46,760 square feet of roof replacement of the high school, with an additional 29,452 square feet as an alternate addition. The project base is estimated at $409,000, with the additional alternate at $250,000, or $8.75 per square foot. The replacement project will begin in July of 2023 with a completion date on or before August 22nd. We have to beat school starting. And the funds are set aside in the 23-24 capital outlay preliminary budget.
motion, please?
I move that we accept the high school roof replacement project bid.
Second.
A motion by Iverson and second by Moulton to bid the high school roof replacement project. Any questions there?
Specifically, which areas of the roof is this?
This would be over by the arena in that area, and then we would be hopeful to cover, the alternate would cover the additional spaces of where they currently have, I believe it's the additional, I'm trying to think, can't think of the title.
Pink
The pink on the right, I think, is the
pink is the alternate.
alternate. So it looks like stage and arena is the alternate.
Yep, stage and arena, and then the other area is those additional buildings for not egg, but your additional.
Oh, the
Patty,
shop.
can you help-
and
the shop, the shop.
Looks
Why is
like,
it so
yeah.
hard to find the word shop?
Concourse is blue, which is
Yes. Yep, it's that main area there, and then the other areas behind that unhighlighted, those would not need replacement.
we love flat roofs. Yes, we do. Thank you.
All right, we have the motion and second to approve the authority to bid. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 6.3.3, consider the architectural and engineering contract for the stadium projects phase 2.
Yes, the district requests permission to contract Co-op Architect to provide architect and engineering services for the planning of phase 2 of the stadium. The contract fee is 6.25% of the estimated cost of construction, not to exceed $300,000. The architect and engineering service design will solidify the project cost estimate and establish phases for budgeting and fundraising efforts.
Okay, can we have a motion, please?
I move approval of the architectural and engineering contract, Stadium Phase 2, as presented.
Motion by Moulton,
Second.
second by Iverson. Any comments or questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 6.3.2, consider change order number 7 for the high school renovation.
Our final change order. The proposed change order consists of 5 modifications to the project in the amount of $168,972. The majority of the change order is in relation to adding cooling to the kitchen, which was not included in the overall scope of the project. The cost of $131,000 includes adding air conditioning to the existing kitchen air handling unit, with notation that work would begin the summer of 2023 due to the long product lead times and installation taking place after school has ended. The approved construction contingency is $827,000, and this change order quantifies all changes to $795,000, leaving $32,036 left in the contingency. This is the last anticipated change order.
Okay, motion please.
I move that we accept change order number 7 for the high school renovation project.
Motion by Iverson,
Second.
second by Moulton. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the change order, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move to 6.4 and consider the South Dakota Department of Education waiver for accelerated geometry at the middle school.
Yes, every 5 years we need to apply for a waiver when we issue credit prior to 9th grade. And this is our year to update our geometry waiver, which we do offer at the middle school.
Okay, could we have a motion, please?
Move approval that we consider the waiver as presented.
Motion by Stein,
Second.
second by Moulton. Comments? Questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.5, a calendar update.
Yes. We've been wrestling with what to do with our 4.5 snow days that happened prior in December. And what I'm asking you to consider tonight is an update to February 22nd, where currently it is a early dismissal for grades K through 12, And we are asking to fulfill the half day, which was on December 22nd, to fulfill that by having K-8 stay for the entire day. The 9 through 12 will still need to dismiss due to the region music contest here. And so that would take care of that half day for students on February 26th. That still leaves us with an end date to the school year of May 31st. With obvious considerations that we may come back to an update, with an update in March, April, and who knows, May. But so tonight's request is to amend the calendar to have a full day of school on February 22nd.
Okay, motion please.
So moved.
Motion by Iverson
Second.
and second by Lohr to amend the calendar to allow for a full day on February 22nd for K through 8. Any questions?
What, just in case you're wondering if other days we considered, we did check with staff about the possibility of going on April 10th, which would be Easter Monday. Unfortunately, we had too many people that had already committed to that, so we did not think we could have adequate sub coverage to have a full day of school that day. So.
Okay, we've got the motion and the second. All in favor of approval of the calendar update, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.6, our student enrollment requests under point 1.
I do not have a 132810 or an open enrollment for you this evening.
All right, then we'll move on to item 7 and 7.1, the administrative reports.
Most of what I have for you is under legislative, and just a few bills to be looking for. There has not been a bill named to it, but the general funding bill, the governor's proposal was for 5%. Their lobbying efforts are hoping to get us closer to the rate of inflation, which is 8%. We think that is still in play, and that is what we've been speaking to when it comes to working with our legislators. There was a Cracker Barrel on Saturday, and indications were that possibility that there still is some hope that it's not still set at the governor's proposal. There were 3 what I would call juvenile justice bills: Senate Bill 3, Senate Bill 4, Senate Bill 5. Senate Bill 3 is the requirement of law enforcement to give notice to school personnel. We're very fortunate that both the Cottington County Sheriff and the Watertown PD do let us know, but there are some counties where that's doesn't work as well. That Senate Bill 4 is modify a court's authority to commit a habitual juvenile offender to DOC. What that's been kind of is if there are 3 violations of similar nature in a 6-month period, that the DOC would need to get involved. Right now, that is looking at the House. It's passed through the Senate. Senate Bill 5 is a Juvenile Justice Oversight Council. Extended that to 2031, so keeping an eye on the juvenile justice bills and to allow more than the current 1 educator on that committee. So we're excited about that. I mentioned Senate Bill 59, which is a CTE infrastructure grant. That is in appropriations at this time. On the House side, there's some bills that we're watching that are of probably interest. One of them is House Bill 1043, which would cut $100,000 from owner-occupied property taxes. From the school end, that is extremely difficult to support because that would be a main source of revenue for our capital outlay and our special education funds. Not to mention the hole it would leave in the general fund revenue side. And then there's the food tax on food. There's a 2.5%, there's a 3.5%, and also a complete repeal of that going through that we're keeping an eye on. And then there's 2 bills. One of them is House Bill 1233 to expand the provision of online education through the South Dakota Virtual School and House Bill 1234, which is a voucher school or voucher bill for private schools. Both of those we are opposed to because they take away funding for public schools in the state of South Dakota. So some we're looking at hopefulness, and some we're hoping that they don't make it. So it's kind of the good, the bad there.
Okay, thank you. 7.2, is there anything for the board to report to the superintendent?
I'm not a board member, but I'd like to provide some information on our nutrition service program. There's been a lot of talk just with negative balances that our students have incurred going back to the paid, free, and reduced plan with our nutrition service. So as of today, we have 273 students that have a negative account that totals $4,591. By tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., that will be zero. We had an anonymous donor stop in today, and they wanted to pay off our negative student lunch accounts, so we are very thankful for that. And they will have impacted those families significantly, so we are thankful to that. So I just wanted to share that with the school board.
And I actually had two more. I forgot. I
Okay.
got so carried away with legislation. Parent-teacher conferences at all buildings this week. Thursday night, the 16th, from 4 to 8, and then Friday morning, the 17th, from 8 to noon. Your building should be in contact with families on that. And then when President Sanderson was here, to welcome her, there is a community meet and greet on March 2nd from 4 to 6 p.m. over at Lake Area. So I would invite the public to stop out and get to know her a little bit.
Okay. Now, are there any other items for the board to report this evening?
Thank you, Heidi, for the good report.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just to follow up on that, if just for public information, if you are a family that's in need or you're having struggles as you're trying to pay off your lunch accounts, please reach out to our building principals. They can help you walk through. We have free reduced applications. If there's anything else we can help maybe set you up with in order to pay that down. It will be paid off, as of tomorrow morning. But again, as we work through the rest of the school year, if you're a high school or middle school student that takes breakfast and lunch every day, it'll be about $300 more to get you through the year if you're on the paid status. If you're an intermediate or elementary student, it's $275 to get you through the school year. So again, reach out, see how we can help, and maybe come up with a plan to get us through the rest of the school year.
Okay, thank you. If nothing else, our next item is executive session for for looking at a personnel items. Can we have a motion to go into executive, please?
I move we go into executive session.
Second.
Motion by Moulton, second by Iverson. Thank you, everybody, for attending this evening.
I don't want me to leave this here, huh?